Okay, just activated my microphone. Welcome wrenches and boards. Welcome John. Welcome Elmar. Uh, what I'm going to talk about today is really real beginner stuff, and it's going to be a fun show because I'm still a beginner myself concerning vMix. So what we are going to do is I'm going to show you where to find vMix. I'm going to show you how the interface looks like, and to end today's show we go through all the possible inputs. And for the rest, the next coming weeks, what I'll going to show you is all the possibilities of vMix. So I'm going to show you how to put some lower thirds, picture-in-pictures, overlays, how to stream to Facebook, YouTube. So every week we're going to do something else to finally build up a decent production, I hope. But today is really for beginners. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat, and I can see that I try to help you. Elmar is saying that apparently it's broken on my website, the link. Let me see. It's I think at my site it's still working, Elmar, the embed. Normally it starts with a small delay, but I looked it up now here, and let me show you quickly. This is now my website, so as you can see, it's working on my site. So maybe it's a browser problem or so. Okay. For the rest, I think not really important things happened. What was a point of concern was that I think it was last weekend the US and Canada changed their times and their hours, and we saw it yesterday on the whole show. A lot of our American and Canadian friends were an hour earlier than we. And what's happening with the show? So we're starting at a normal hour, but yeah, crazy stuff. These are changes. We're going to change the last weekend of March, so in not this weekend, but the weekend later. And people are... Today we had at work a problem with it, so we got some calls from people saying that yeah, our meetings are 1 hour off, and a lot of discussions between all the IT guys. Till I said, yeah, wait a minute, yesterday something happened also on Wall Show. Is it possible that the hour change has something to do with it? And apparently one of the time servers that we're using is based in the United States. It's based on EST time, but because they changed it this weekend, another server wasn't synchronized, and that caused that a lot of people's meetings were 1 hour off. Hi Tommy, nice to see you here. Tommy's my social media officer, and yeah, for those who didn't subscribe yet, please click here on the bottom right corner, the subscribe button, and hit the bell so you'll be notified when I'm going live. At the moment I think I have 37 subscribers. I won 2 subscribers last week. So not that I'm going to fight for it, but the goal is, of course, first goal 100 subscribers, so I can get a decent URL on YouTube. What I have to say is also I have to apologize for sharing my screen today, as I'm going to show you vMix. You're going to see the infinity effect, and that's because I hoped to have a second PC, but yeah, didn't buy one, so I could bring that in via NDI, and then you don't have the infinity effect. So today you're going to see from time to time the infinity effect, but I'll try to do my best. You're also going to see that I look from time to time to my left and to my right. That's because I want to have a look at the chat. So if people are saying something interesting. It's interesting that what Elmar is saying, that the embedding is deactivated by the copyright owner, and on my side it's working. Do other people have the same problem over here, that the live isn't not visible on my website? Okay, almost time to start the show, 20 seconds, so let me put up the XCase logo and let's start the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of School of Live Streaming. It's the 5th episode. We watched how to choose a camera, how to choose a microphone. We talked a little bit about streaming settings and stuff like that. So at a certain moment you have to make a decision with which software package you're going to use. As I said earlier, I don't want to push anyone in one kind of direction whatsoever, but I have chosen the vMix route. So from this week on, I'm going to show you vMix really from the beginning, where to find it, where to download it, how to install it. We're going to watch the interface a little bit, and then we're going to end with how to bring an input, all the inputs. And then from next week, we're going to build it up, and I'm going to tell you how to use a lower third, how to use overlays, how to stream to Facebook and YouTube Live. So if you have any questions about the use of vMix, please feel free to post them here into the chat or on my website. That's even better. Use a contact form. Last week I got a message from Tommy, so it's working, and then I'll try to answer your questions in the live show. Hi Martin, glad you could make it on time. So let's start with it. Let's say you made a choice and you said, okay, I'm going for vMix. So where can you find vMix? Well, you just go to www.vmix.com, and here you have the download link here on top, and you can here click on download free trial. Both go to the same page. So if I click here on download, it's going to open up the downloads page, and here you can see here that it says click download below to install the free 60-day trial or to update your licensed copy of vMix. If you never used vMix, you can download it and use it for free for 60 days. So that's 2 months. and you get the most professional version that vMix has. Of course, that's very well seen of them, because if you have used all the possibilities of vMix, you want to keep them, of course. But you get a full, not even a logo of vMix on top of it, a full functioning version of vMix. The latest version at the moment is 20.0.0.55. As I said a few weeks earlier, vMix is only for Windows. So you download it. I've done it for you already, and then vMix. It's about, let's say, 200 megabytes. So I'm not going to install it today because I don't want to mess up with this installation. What's going to happen is that you have a normal installer. You click on it, you say run, then I accept the agreement, next. It's going to ask if you want to create a desktop icon, and then you click on install. When you're going to open up vMix for the first time, it's going, and I'm going to share my my screen here now. So now you're going to see the infinity effect. When you're going to launch vMix for the first time, you're going to see this window. Create a new blank preset with the following video format. It's here you choose your format you want to work with. Let's say that if you're in the States, you have a lot of possibilities here. 720p, 29. I think that's the format people are using in the States. In Europe, we are using 25p or 50p. You can use standard definition. You can use high definition. 1080p 50, that's what I'm using, and you can even go to here to 4K. Be aware, however, the higher resolution you go, the more you're asking from your computer. So that's something you have to be aware of, that you're not going to say, okay, I don't bother, I'm just going to use 4K. It's going to ask a lot of the resources. I think the best you can do is, if your cameras are, for instance, 720p, that you choose here also 720p. vMix can scale, but it's better just to choose the right resolution here. Now, if we have a look on the interface, then you can see here on top we have a few buttons which I'm not going to talk too much about today. Then here the orange thing is the preview window, and the green one is the output. So what I'm streaming now to YouTube, for instance. A lot of people who are already using a production switcher, they are used to here having the green color and the red color. You can change that into the settings, but that's for a later episode. Between the two windows here, you have some buttons. These are like when I want to change to my full screen, for instance, and I click cut, it's a direct cut. If I click on the next button, that's a fade. Yep, it's fading from bottom to bottom. And there are other possibilities to use. The first two ones, quick play and cut, they're fixed. The other ones you can choose. If for instance you say I'm not using fade too much, you click here on the triangle and you can choose another one. For instance, if you say, okay, I'm using a lot cube zoom, you click here cube zoom, and when I click here, then you have a cube zoom. Let me put it again on fade. This one is kind of special. I'm using a production clock. It's not there by default. I'll show you later how you can put a production clock over there. And here you have 4 overlay channels where can you put a few things in overlays. Here on this row you have you're seeing a lot of colors here. You start by putting in your inputs, your camera, your microphone, your PowerPoint, and by default it's all on this tab, everything. But you can say, for instance, okay, I want this one, I want my camera, I'm going to create something special for my cameras. So if I click on here on the red thing, I can say, okay, I want my input over there. So here on my input, I click here. If I click here on the red thing, you're going to see here now that the cock has a red background. If I click on this red thing, you see that my inputs are there. That's just to organize stuff. I've seen that some people are using it. They create one for the pre-show, they create another one for the regular show, and they create another one for the post-show. So you can put your things that only being used in the pre-show on a separate thing. If you have not that many inputs, you can put everything here on the same stuff, but I often use those colors. Okay, then here, when you click here, when you see here, this is the audio part. Here we're going to talk about audio later in a later episode. But here you see all the inputs, your master input, A and B bus, and here my audio microphone and a video I brought in. So every video you bring in, it's going to appear here, even if it doesn't have any audio. What you can do, and that's interesting, so if you click here and you said, okay, I don't want to watch my my input, my audio mixer, you click here and you have more room here for your inputs. That's one thing. Another thing is that you see here this icon, and if you click on it, now my mixer is gone. But if I share my other screen, you see here that now the audio mixer is on a other screen, and that's very interesting when you're doing a production with multiple people. So I can, for instance, I can focus on this screen and do all the production work. My audio engineer, he can use another screen and do everything here for the audio part. So that's a very interesting thing to use. So you can use as much real space that you want. And then here on the bottom row we have some, this is the most important one, what we're going to discuss today, add inputs. And as you can see, what I forgot to do today is to record the show. So I'm going to click now the recording, and then it's going to ask here if I want to record. So as you see, I already made a mistake on today's show. I forgot to click the record. The tip I can give you, and I didn't look on my notes, is make some small notes. Watch audio, very important. Click stream, click record. This is the first time I forgot to click record. It's now by showing you that I've seen that record wasn't happening. So this is making a recording. You can see here, if you click on the cogwheel, now it's recording. You can say wherever it has to make a local recording, in which quality, and so that can be done over there. External, external is I'm using it a lot on the whole show. You can use external with Skype and Zoom, and then it's going to use your output, and it's going to think that, okay, I'm a local camera, and you can send that output then to Zoom or to vMix. So it's when you see in the whole show someone calling into the Zoom room, and you see that there are color bars, that's when people forgot to click on the external button. The second one is stream, but we'll come back on all these buttons in later shows. This is where you set up, where you click on when you want to go live to YouTube and Facebook. Yeah, Elmar, what you're saying is, thank God YouTube is recording. That's a very good point. That you have always a recording of YouTube. Here, the multicorder is not every version has the multicorder, so I'm not going to talk about this one today. The same for playlists. These are really advanced options. What I forgot to tell you in the beginning was when you install vMix, not only vMix is installed. Together with vMix, you get, for the same price, vMix Social. vMix Social is what I'm been using last shows. I can, and then with vMix Social, you can bring in some titles. If I let's say that I want to bring in the last thing from Elmar, then I can this is now vMix Social, so I'll bring in the comment that Elmar made on YouTube, and this one you get for free. I'm going to do a very special episode about vMix Social in a later episodes. So vMix Social is installed, and also the title designer to make your own titles. But that's title is also something we're going to see in another episode. And desktop capture is also installed. Desktop capture is, by the way, also available for Mac OS. So if you say, okay, I want to show people something about Mac OS, you download that program on your Mac, and you can bring it in via local desktop capture. That's one way, so to bring in a Mac. Or you can, for instance, if you install PowerPoint on another PC, you can bring in a PowerPoint or something else with your local desktop capture. But that's also something for a later episode. If I show you again, then my screen, here you have overlays. That's a rather complex thing. That's also for later shows. This is called the hamburger menu. When I click here, you can go to Data Sources Manager, vMix Social, Title Designer, vMix Video Tools. This one is performance statistics. So when I click on it, I never have used it until now. So here you can see, for instance, how many sources are dropped, if there are any problems. So you can see here that that I'm rather doing well. My output, there is no source dropped, so my internet is rather good. Recording is going well, There seems to be a problem from time to time with a Logitech Pro webcam, which I'm not using right now. My audio microphone is doing well. So here you can pinpoint if there are any problems during your live stream. This one here, the camera, I've been using that to make my thumbnail for YouTube. So if I watch now right into the camera and I click on the camera, it's making a snapshot of what you are seeing now, and then you have a decent picture. If you want to show someone, or you have you found a mistake, just click here. You have a snapshot, and you can send it to the people. And the lock is if you want lock buttons such as close. If you're doing a live stream and someone is coming, I want to mess up, they are clicking here, you can click here the lock, and then people are not being able to click here on the extent. So this is for the interface. I'm looking here now a little bit on the chat if this is okay for the interface, and if there are any questions about the interface, what certain buttons are doing or not. I got already a tip from Elmore for a future episode, automatic recordings using triggers, but that's going to come on more to the end of the vMix course, Elmore. Okay, this is it for the interface. And now, when you start vMix for the first time, you're going to see here 2 blank spots. I made already, I added some inputs to make a few things easier. So let me show you what we can do with inputs. So what can you bring in vMix as an input? Almost everything. And what exactly can I show you here with the browser input? If you go to the vMix, and all the links, by the way, as usual, are going to be in the description of this YouTube movie. Here, when you click on software and you see here supported hardware, first of you are seeing the requirements. Here on the tab video capture hardware, you're seeing which capture cards are being tested by vMix and got their approval. So it's a very long list. If you doubt if your capture card can be used by vMix, it's here. Also, you can see here which controllers can be used for using the shortcuts, the Akai's, the Behringer and so, and which PTZ cameras can be used in vMix. So this is always an interesting part on their website to see what you can bring in, which capture cards can you use and stuff like that. But I'm going to show you here on the bottom left, when you click here at input, and you're going to see here all the stuff you can bring in. A video, the first option. You can, with video, you can bring in AVI. You can bring in I think MPG, MXF, MP4, WMV and QuickTime. If, for instance, I see here I want to bring in here this movie, then it says it's not found because I changed all my stuff. But you can bring in a movie, and what you can do then is you can say here the in points and the out points. I doesn't want the whole movie, I just want from here to here. You click here on cut and the video is being played. So that's the first option you can bring in, a video. The second option is DVD, and I was asking myself if some people are already, if they're still using DVDs, but I wanted to give it a try and it didn't work. So I said, why isn't it working? There's an error you get when you click on add DVD. And what I found out that in Windows 10 and also in 7, the traditional Windows DVD player, which was in Windows XP, it was into the Windows program, isn't delivered by default. So you have to buy Windows DVD player. It costs you $15, and then you can use the DVD option here. So if you have DVDs you want to show, be aware that you have to buy something extra. That's also mentioned on the vMix side, by the way. The third option you have is list. So with list you can put different sound effects, movies, and you see here it supports video, audio and playlist files. You can put them into a list and then they're going to be played one after the other. But a list is not in the basic version or in the basic HD version. The third one, and that's probably going to be the first option you're going to use, is camera. So one thing you have to remember is that you have to connect all your equipment before you start up vMix. So if you have already started up vMix and then you connect your camera and your audio, you're going to have some problems. So connect everything first and then open vMix. So if I click here on add input and camera, when I click here on the drop down, you can see all the cameras that are now connected. So the first one is my professional camera. It says Ultra Studio Mini Recorder because that's my capture card. I can choose also here Logitech HD Pro webcam. It's probably not going to work because it's already connected. And then you can choose here the input. I always let it on default. It's always working for me. You can choose here the resolution of your camera. Of course, the maximum resolution that the camera has. If, for instance, I say, no, I don't want 1080p for that camera, I want a lower resolution, you can choose here a lower resolution. You can choose your frame rate over here. So if you want NTSC or PAL, and here you have other options. The moment you have done that, your camera is going to appear here, and this is for instance my Logitech HD Pro webcam, what you're seeing with my normal green screen behind me. So that's how you bring in cameras. What Tommy is saying here, and by connecting the equipment has to be powered on. Yes, that's totally correct. So it's not only that you connect your camera and you start up vMix, your camera has to be powered on. Everything has to be powered on before you bring it in. That's a good remark, Tommy. So let me put quickly, so you see here, this is my professional camera with my background. It's a totally different thing. The next input option we're going to have is here NDI, a desktop capture. I'm going to explain NDI in a later episode. But here what you're seeing here are all the NDI inputs that I can use in my production. even a local desktop capture. This is what I'm using to bring in my browser, for instance. I have 3 displays, so I can choose, and I'm seeing here that I'm not sharing the right screen. Sorry for that. So add input, and here NDI desktop capture. And when I go to local desktop capture, you're seeing here my 3 displays. My browser, I can bring in vMix social or the 2 vMix things. And I've just seen I'm going, I got a really important phone call, guys. For 1 minute, I'll be back. Just going to say that I'm not be able to answer it. I'll be back in 15 seconds. Okay, I'm very sorry for this small interruption, but I want to be as open as possible because normally you don't do this. Because I have a sick family member and I have to watch my phone from time to time, so that's the reason. Again, my apologies for this small interruption, but let's continue. So we were here with the inputs part, and we just saw NDI desktop capture. Here, stream, this one is a rather special one. Probably you're going to say as a beginner, what is this all about? RTSP, this is an old way of bringing in stuff, but it's still working. And I hope I can show you, because one of the interesting things to bring in is and I'm going to show it to you. I have here my iPhone, and I have an app that's called LiveReporter. So I can, it's the same as this is a free app, by the way. It's the same as the paid NDI app. But if I click, for instance, here on LiveReporter, it's giving me an RTSP feed. So if I put here the URL RTSP 192.168.0.184, and I say okay. If everything works as I want, you are seeing now I just brought in my iPhone via RTSP. So that's a very interesting way to bring in your iPhone with this app. So I can show you a small studio tour if you want. You are seeing now. So this is what they can use. What you can use, for instance, with the RTSP option. Via RTSP. So it's something a lot of people are not using. I'm using the RTSP mainly to bring in this camera, and I really like it. So this was here in the RTSP option, the stream. The next option here is instant replay, and I'm not going to talk about that today, probably not even in the coming weeks, because I just touched it a little bit, and I don't know enough about it to tell you how it's working exactly. But it's also instant replay, by the way, is only in the Pro version and in the 4K version. You can have 4 cameras, and you can decide which camera you are going to use for the live for the instant replay. But it's going to take us too long, and it's going to be too complex to explain that today. Today I just want to show you all the possibilities, all the inputs, and about some of the inputs we're going to talk later in later shows. Here, image sequence stinger. A stinger, you see that sometimes when between 2 shots you're seeing kind of a special effect that's going, it's doing like this, and you're going from one thing to the other. I have created a very basic stinger. I'm going to show you what you can do with it, but I'm not going too deep into it. So add input image stinger. I'm going to search for my stinger, and I've seen here that I'm going to share my screen again. So image sequence stinger. I'm going to browse for the stinger. It's here on my website, Xkeys, and I think here with the stingers you need a sequence of PNG files, numbered sequence, and you just have to click. You see here number 0, and the last one is 141, so it's 141 frames. You just click the first one, you click open, okay, and you see here now input number 12 is the X keys. That's the stinger. What you then have to do is when you click here on the bottom on overlay, it's here you have your 4 overlays, but you also have stinger number 1. The duration of the stinger is half a second by default, so when I cut from one input to the other, it's taking half a second. There are 141 frames, and here this is the most important thing, the stinger cut point. The stinger cut point is the frame where you decide, okay, I want the cut between shot number 1 and shot number 2. I want that it happens over here. So I'm just going to put 100. In a later episode, I'm going to explain which number you need. So I said 100, okay. And if I click here now on stinger 1, you're going to see that normally the logo is coming up here, and it's fading to my other input. So I'm going to click again on stinger, and on the frame number 100, it's going to the other. So it's a fancy way to make a cut between 2 inputs. That is what you can do with a stinger. It takes a little time to create one if you want to do it yourself, or you can go to sites like Video Blogs and the others, and you can buy a stinger yourself. I'm watching here the chat, and I'm seeing here that Drumlin Media are saying, yeah, you can bring in DVD through VLC Media Player. That's correct. Another one is also from Drumlin. You can also bring in a phone with IP webcam. Yeah, that's totally correct. It's with vMix. You can do the same thing in 3, 4, or 5 ways. There are so many possibilities, and often people are saying, yeah, I'm doing it that way. Use the way that's the most comfortable for you. I just want to show you a few the possibilities that are here now for starters. Tommy saying, wow, I did not know that Rudy can even teach old people. Yeah, Tommy, that's glad I can teach old people. Thank you for that comment. so let's continue. So we have seen here image sequence stinger, video delay. I'm not going to explain it to you guys because I honestly know what it's doing a little bit, but how it's working exactly, I don't have a clue. So you have to excuse me. I'll have to ask, if you're really interested what it does, I'll try to look it up and ask some other people. Image, this is also something, of course, you're going to use a lot. You brought in your camera. Now you want to bring in an image. So you just browse to your computer. You're looking for some pictures. Let's say that I want to bring in this one. I said, okay, open. Okay, it's creating another input here. And as you see here, I'm going to let it this way. If I cut, you have a picture. This one you can use as a background. I'm using this for another show. And you can use this one for an overlay or a background and stuff like that. So the input, the image, you can bring in PNG, JPEG, TIFF, and BMPs. So image is probably also one of the inputs you're going to use a lot. Photos is kind of special. With photos, you can bring in a whole folder in one go, and you can use them in your pre-show or during a break, and it's going to create kind of a presentation of all the pictures that are in that folder. So I've put a few pictures in a folder. So you're just going to browse to your folder on your computer. You say OK, and as you can see here in my preview, it brought, and I'm going to show you it this way. You're seeing here it brought in 3 pictures, and it's going to those 3 pictures automatically. You can do it one after the other, but you can do a slideshow like this, and it's very interesting if you have a lot of logos. If you have, let's say, okay, I have a 5-minute break. Just create a folder and you put some 100 pictures in it. Maybe already some pictures that were taken during the stream, and you can bring in these pictures automatically. You can change the duration, because I think now it's 1 second. You can change the duration of this one, and you're seeing here also that it's automatically showing you the name of the pictures. I didn't use it until yesterday when I was going through all these inputs, but it can be a very interesting thing to use during breaks, I think. Okay, let's continue. So we brought in photos. Then you can also bring in a PowerPoint. Those who watched my previous shows have seen that I brought in PowerPoints. And Elmar, what I did was I created some shortcuts. My left arrow key to go to a previous slide, my next arrow key to next slide. So when you're using one laptop, PowerPoint has also be installed on your same computer. So you must have a version of PowerPoint installed to use that option, or on another computer, and then you can bring it in via a local desktop capture. But let's say that for those who haven't watched previous shows, I can bring in here, and I changed all my. Yesterday, there's something you cannot do. I changed all my my inputs. But you can bring here a PowerPoint, and then you can like, for instance, this one. It's loading the PowerPoint slides now. So I have another input here with my slides. You see here, if I get to that I have 6 slides. You can go to the slides automatically, or if you program a shortcut, I can use my keys here to go to the next slide and so on. So it's something I use a lot, bringing in PowerPoint, because when I want to talk about some stuff, it gives me a confidence. So I have my bullet points in front of me. I can talk a little bit about that. Then I cut to the desktop capture of the screen I want to show you. And it gives me a lot of options, and I don't use fancy fades and things like that in my PowerPoint show. Just bullet points, and you can use it during your show. What's maybe interesting to know is if you create your PowerPoint, create it on the same resolution you're using in your production. I'm using 1080p. So when I create a PowerPoint, of course you choose 16:9 and you choose the right resolution. So this is if you want to bring in PowerPoint. Next on the list is here color. So if you want to create an overlay or something like that, by default you can say, okay, I want the color black. You can bring in color bars. So if I click here on color bars and I say okay, I have here color bars, and I can show color bars. I'm not using it that much, just mainly to create a basis to start from when I'm using multi-view. So in the beginning, I told you probably the most important ones are 1, camera, 2, image, and we almost at the third important one. But before we go to audio input, here with audio, you can bring in MP3 WAV files. So you download them or you make them up and you go live. Just be aware, if you're sending out an MP3 that has copyright, you send it out live to YouTube, you're going to be blocked. That's something you have to be very careful of. But you can bring in different. If I say, okay, I'll bring this one in, and I click here, then I'm not going to do it because this one has copyright. I click on quick play, it's going to show you I let you hear the audio file. And then with camera, the most important one is of course audio input. With audio inputs, you can, if you have connected to USB microphone, for instance, it's going to recognize automatically your USB microphone. If you have connected your microphone via an interface, it's going to give you the option to choose the interface. So I have connected my microphone, for instance, via my mixer that is connected via USB. So if I click here on audio device, you can see here all the options I have. So I can choose the audio device of my Blackmagic, but in my case I have to choose here microphone USB audio codec. That's often it's one of those inputs. If you have, for instance, and I forgot the brand again, the Behringer UMC 404, which has 4 channels, you're going to see here 4 channels, and you can choose which channel you want to bring in. talking about audio inputs because it's so important in one of the next shows, and it's not going to take that long. I'm going to bring someone in who knows a lot about audio, what you have to look after, and what all these things on the mixer are meaning. Because as you probably can remember, my very first show, which is called episode number 0, I forgot to enable my audio input, my audio output. So I was talking for 20 minutes. I wasn't paying attention to my audio meter. And to avoid that, we're going to explain very well how all this thing, this audio mixer is working. Because together, to repeat myself, together with cameras, your audio input is probably going to be the most important thing. So this is it for the audio input. So we're almost there. The next one is also someone an input that's going to be very interesting, and a lot of people want to use that directly. So vMix had a lot of titles already into vMix. You not have to pay for them extra, and you see here there are some titles here, a lot of choices already. There are some animated titles. There is a scoreboard. You can bring in a scoreboard here. You can bring in a timer, ticker, text, multi-view, social, all these things. I think probably in 2 or 3 weeks I'm going to do an episode only about titles, because then I'm going to show you also how you can bring in Excel and combine that with titles. So, but just to give you an idea, if I bring in this title, for instance, you're going to see here that it's asking for the headline. So I can say, for instance, Elmore Lamb, and in the description you can type your web page or whatever. So I type this one, and I have here, then I have my lower third. And if let me switch to this view, for instance, if I say, okay, now I want to show the lower third, I can click on one of the overlays. I'll show you it later, and it's going to bring you my lower third, and I can bring it off again. So how did I do it? Here I clicked here on the lower third, and then here you have the 4 overlays. I'm using already overlay number 1. If you click here on overlay number 2, it's going to put the title over your input, and if you click again, yep, your title is gone again. So a very nice way to bring in titles. Let's, and just because it's so funny, if you take the animated one, what that does, I'm going to say, okay, Rudy Engels, description, not going to lose a lot of time. So I've now here the animated one. If I click here, you're going to see the title is not just going to do a fade, it's going to be animated. So you're seeing here, there's an animation coming in. If I click again, there is another animation for going out. So a lot of great titles that already in vMix. You can buy titles, you can make your own titles. In maybe a few months, I'm going to show how you can make your titles with Photoshop and bring them into vMix or with other programs. There are so many possibilities. I'm not overusing them, titles. I'm using them mainly in the beginning of the show to let you show something, or in combination with social. So you can bring in a ticker that shows you some stuff. So this is it for the titles here. As I told you before, a lot of other possibilities, like for instance to bring in YouTube stuff and things like that. But as said already, it's for another show. Flash RTMP, it's an option I haven't used, and I'm not going to use it, but you can bring in Flash in SWF format or RTMP. Next one, and I'm not going to show you it also 2D because it's rather complex for beginners. There are some virtual sets who are delivered by default. You can buy virtual sets. I'm not using them that much. I'm using it, of course, with my green screen, but here, this one with different camera inputs, for the moment, I'm finding it too complex. But a very interesting one can be for instance, here, multi-view A. And if I do that, then you have here some options, and you can change setup in the left. In the left one, I want, let's say, I want my ultra media recorder. I want my my website. I want that. So you can choose whatever you want in those two boxes. And when I do then a cut, you see here I've put here now. Of course, normally you put your camera in it, but you can put, if you're doing a two-person interview, you can put yourself over here, and you can put the other guest in this stuff. Okay. So virtual sets. Someone who knows very well virtual sets can talk about 1 hour or more just about virtual sets. It's not my cup of coffee for the moment. Again, in a few weeks, I'll show you a basic setup, how I'm using my green screen, because that's also kind of a virtual set. How to do that, that's rather simple. These things are rather complex. And the before last one is web browser. You can bring in any web page without creating, without using a local desktop capture. And so let's say that I want to say, wait, www stepbackinTime.tv, and I say, okay, this is the resolution I want to bring in. So I say okay, and now you see here that the website, the URL of the website here is brought in, and I can show you the website, and if there is a way here to go up or down, you can do it here. So it's a very easy way to bring in websites. If you just want to show one page and you say, okay, I want to show my sponsor and I want to show his website, you just use that option, and you bring in the website with that URL. Okay, and then we have come to the very last one, and that's video call. That's vMix call, and I think it was in 19 or was it 20 that it launched, and it created a big buzz, and I think a lot of people changed from other programs to vMix because of vMix call. What it you see here that there is a password. It's working also. It's working via the WebRTC protocol. So there is a server on the vMix headquarter or in the neighborhood. And let's say you want to bring in another guest that doesn't know too much about computers or whatever. You say, okay, you go to the vMix call website, you give him the password, he's starting up his Chrome browser, he's going to the vMix call website, he's putting up his password, and if he has a camera or a microphone connected, he can talk with you, and there is an automatic mix minus, so you're not hearing yourself in your headphones, or the guy on the other side is not hearing himself into his headphones. It's a very, very nice thing to bring in guests, but I'm also going to do a separate episode about vMix call. The quality of the calls is very, very good. And you can see here, let's say that your guest doesn't have a very good bandwidth, maybe is on mobile or so. You can decide here, instead of sending him the highest resolution, like 1080p, you can send him 720p. If you say, the call is, I've too much buffering, you can send him 240p, the lowest resolution, for instance, which is only taking up 300 kilobits per second. So this is a very interesting option to have guests. When we're going further into the shows, I hope to bring in some guests that are here in the chat, like Tommy, Elmar, and that we just can have a very informal chat about vMix and other things. I'll try maybe to bring in one guest to start with, and then I'll start to bring in a second guest. I have rather decent bandwidth to bring in two guests, so I hope to do that in later shows. And yeah, it gives a very nice interaction, of course, if you can bring in some guests. But again, vMix call, separate episode in the next coming weeks. So again, almost an hour. I know it's being a lot if you never used vMix, but I just wanted to give you a very short interview about all the inputs you can bring into vMix. There are other ways, but I think this is already a lot to bring in. So I don't know what you guys think about this episode. If it was not too much, if the presentation was okay with the infinity effect, because that's something I'm struggling, and I'm not happy that I have to show you the infinity effect. Let me say if it was okay for you into the chat. I'm going to play the credential again to end the show, but I stay 5 more minutes, let's call it after show. I'm going to do a test also today, and I'm not going to cut this video, because normally if you don't cut the video, people who want to watch the show afterwards can also have a look to the chat. So it's something we have to see if it's working or not. If the chat is working, I'm not going to cut my shows anymore. So it can be interesting for some people to have a look at the chat, the funny stuff in it, but also the very good chat, because I really want to thank you guys for being every week here in the show and giving you very, very good comments, by the way, that I can use for next episodes. So I'm going to play the credentials again, and then we can have a live chat about the show or other stuff. So guys, thank you very much again for attending today. Hope to see you next week. I don't know exactly which topic it's going to be about, but I keep you posted. Thank you and see you next week. Bye-bye. Okay, so this concluded the, let's say, official part of the show. So I'll stay here for a few minutes live to answer any more questions you have or remarks. And I'll try to use vMix Social as much as possible, so I can show live here a few comments, because I really think that you deserve to see some comments live here. A good one, I think, was okay, let me see here. It's connected. I have my view here, and I'm going to do a thing for Elmar. And of course, with adding all these inputs, I lost a little bit my social. Let's give that. Okay, what Elmar said, and I think it's Elmar has said about PowerPoint. It's also something I give to when I give lectures about PowerPoint. Don't overuse animations. And the same for video, I think. When you see some animation, some PowerPoints, it's not about the content, but it's all about those fancy animations. A very good comment again from Tommy, of course. Had to leave for a minute. Can you start over? Yes, Tommy, I can start over, but I'm not going to do it because my cheeks are already red from to make me a little bit nervous. Let's see if there are any comments I can show you. As told you before, Drumlin Media said the ways of bringing in, maybe that can be another episode, how to bring in cameras, and I can show you paid apps, free apps, like the one I showed you today, which is, by the way, always working when I'm using it. Of course, there's also a small lag when using it. Let me see if there are other comments. Yeah, Elmar is trying just just to ask some beginners questions. Yeah, that was a little bit a problem with today's show, because I know that a lot of people who viewed previous shows they're even more experienced than me in vMix. So I'm really interested how many live viewers there were today. But yeah, it's also for people who want to watch it afterwards and can go to all the input sections and things like that. Okay, I think there are a lot of comments today. That's good. Martin Steed is asking, was that LiveReporter that you used to bring it in? Yes, that was LiveReporter. I don't know if if everyone in the chat saw it. If not, I can bring it in again, and I can give you a very short studio tour if you want. Let me know if you're interested in it, or if it was okay. But this is a free app, LiveReporter, and you can bring it in via RTSP. Tommy is saying, how do I find the IP address of my Android phone? Tommy, I don't know. I have to look it up if LiveReporter exists also on an Android. But if I start the app, it's giving me the address. So it's giving me RTSP and the address. You don't have to know an address of your iPhone. This one is giving you an address itself. I'll try to show you it again. Maybe I can do it live. So add an sorry, I'll have to share the good screen again. So add input here on stream RTSP, and on my iPhone you can't see, of course, a Tommy like this, but it's telling me RTSP. So I'll put in RTSP : / and it gives me an IP address. So this is probably going to be always another IP address. I click OK, and now I have here my live camera. And if I show you here, this is the output from the camera. So I'm holding it now by hand. So it's a rather good quality. I can change the quality. I'm really coming close to my laptop now. As you can see here, these are my notes. So I don't know if you heard it, but these are here the notes from today.
My live camera.
But can you read over here? Record. So the stuff I forgot to do the first 10 minutes of the show. But so this is a thing, an app that you can use to bring in stuff.
So I'm holding it now by hand.
And
so
I have another question here from Elmar. Let me bring it in here. And the question is, does vMix support drag and drop for video and image inputs? What are you meaning? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Elmar. Do you want to take, for instance, if I open my Finder and I click an image and I bring that in via drag and drop into the inputs, that's working. Is it that what you're meaning? Yep. Elmar, the audio thing, of course, is correct what you're saying. But vMix does support drag and drop for image inputs. Let me try if I can show you how that's working. But I can't. I'll have to show you another screen, I think. So what I'm doing here is you're seeing. I have to switch. Here I have, and it's Elmar. It's the first time I didn't know if it was possible or not, so I just tried it. So here I'm in my Finder, and you're seeing here an image which is called wall JPEG. So I click it and I drag it, and yeah, of course you're not going to see it, but I'll just drag it into a blank area where my inputs are, and when I let it go, it brings in here my inputs. So I took a picture, and here I drag and dropped it somewhere over here. You're seeing a plus symbol, and then you can drag and drop everything you want, and it creates automatically an input. So that's possible. So let me see. Okay, so this question is being answered. You're welcome, Elmar. Yeah, what Elmar also told you, what I was showing you, of course, the app. Let me give you another screen again. So I was using the app, but I forgot to mute here my microphone, and because I'm still using this microphone and this microphone, that created some feedback. That's also something you have to tell also your other people if you're bringing in a guest via vMix call or via Skype, that they have to mute their microphone from the speaker of their laptop or their phone if they are using another audio input. So you only can use one audio input at the same time without having feedback. So that's something you have to be very careful of. Okay. Let me see if there are any more questions. Yeah, Martin told me as well that there was feedback from the iPhone coming in. Thank you, Martin. You can see there's a lot you have to be look after when you're doing an impromptu thing. Let me show you quickly something. And I think these are things I'm going to learn in the next couple of weeks. As I told you on several occasions already, I hope that I can teach you something. I learn a lot from your input, guys, and I'm improving. At least I hope that I improve myself by doing this and making mistakes. And I'm taking a note of all my mistakes. I have a small book, and I'm noting everything down, all the mistakes I've made, like today, forgot to click record. So okay, Martin is asking, and let me pull that in. View. So what Martin is asking is, can you talk about the follow audio for that? If it's okay for you, Martin, I prefer to look up some stuff better, all the pitfalls, and that I take my time to explain it very well, and not but I think it's all about if that's okay with you. So maybe we can do a small item in one of the next shows about bringing a camera and follow audio and stuff like that, because I'm not 100% sure about this stuff, and I'm going to ask a few other people if what I'm going to tell you is if that's correct. Because if I doesn't know something, I'm not going to pretend that I know about it, and I'm going to tell you that I don't know about it. So I'll try to be honest about that. Okay, Martin, thanks for that. So if it's okay with you guys, I want to end the stream over here. For those who want to have a very little chat, because 9:30 I have to go, you can come to the SOLS webpage and call into Zoom, and then we can talk in real life for those who are interested. Thanks again for attending the show. I hope you learned something, and see you next week. Bye-bye.